As you know, we've spoken with a number of candidates and in various races, contested races, and today State Representative Dave Maturen is with us, who is among those candidates. Part of his district is here in Calhoun County. Good morning, Dave.
Morning to you on a happy Halloween.
Yeah, Halloween. Here we are talking about all the scary stuff that's been going on, huh?
Can't get much scarier than this.
I guess not. So you're ready for another round, are you?
Well, looking forward to it. Hopefully the election will turn out in my favor, and I'll get an opportunity to, take the 2 years I've got under my belt now and back to Lansing, and I guess just keep reinventing our state, keep making it the comeback state.
What motivates you at this point?
I think just the fact that I represent 90,000 people, and hopefully I'm doing a good job for them. I think the accolades I've gotten recently by the Legislator of the Year from the Michigan Municipal League and the Michigan Association of Counties, I think bodes well. Just looking to do, I guess, the right thing, and again keep our economy on track, keep Michigan coming back, and it's an honor.
If there's a few words or a sentence that maybe describes what your overall focus is as a state representative, how would you describe that?
Well, I'm trying to focus on the committees that I'm on, and I think tax policy and energy and local government and transportation, those are all issues that affect everybody every day. And so I'm concentrating on what I can do in those committees to make life better for the citizens of not only the 63rd District, but the state of Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about tax policy for a second. When you approach your position there, do you go in saying, we have a lot to fix, or do you go in saying we've got to evaluate what we're doing and decide? I mean, how do you approach that?
Well, you first of all, you look at some issues that are brought up, and issues we had like the switch issue that came up earlier, in the year, and had to take a look at, do we roll the dice and tell these folks, no, take your $5 billion investment and go to New York, or do we come ahead or come along and sync our tax policy up with other states that are competitors? So sometimes those things drive it. I have a couple of issues that I'm personally interested in, and I like to make sure those things get through the legislature, the big box retail assessment, and some other tax policy issues, some of which got passed, making it easier for homeowners to get back illegally paid taxes, and folks who have lost money on their homes to not have to, after having lost money, then turn around and have to pay a tax for that privilege of doing it. So, So gotten that passed. So I think it's just some common sense things. Remind folks,
where did the big box store legislation end up?
Well, right now it ended up passing the House 97-11. 80% of the Republicans, 100% of the Democrats got together and thought it was a good idea for our state from a policy standpoint. It's over in Senate Finance Committee right now, and we are hoping to get a hearing on it very, very soon because we're running out of time. So yeah. I'm hoping the chairman over there decides to take the bill up, and we at least get a shot at it.
The inference there is that was a bipartisan success, shall we say?
I like to think so. Yeah, folks talk about a lot of things we do are pass 105, 106. But those are pretty simple things. This is a fairly contentious bill. Had a lot of opposition, and yet able to get basically most of the folks, 90% of the legislators to agree that it was a good policy for the state and move it out of the House.
Representative Dave Maturen is here, and we're essentially talking about his candidacy for re-election, though, as you can see, sometimes we'll pop up with some of the issues that we've been talking about over the last several months, and we'll continue in just a minute on WBCK. We're here with Representative Dave Maturen this half hour on WBCK. So, looking ahead, if you're going back to Lansing, what's the priority?
Well, you're talking about next year, or are you talking about in a couple of weeks?
In a couple of weeks. Well, next year. Let's talk about next year.
Well, next year, I just think just continuing to make sure we don't backslide on issues, make sure that the funding is there for the roads. We put that in place, and part of that is not only money coming from the gas tax, fuel tax, and registration, but also from the general fund. And so we want to make sure that money is there in the general fund to match the money generated from the user fee. Make sure that stays in place, and we continue fixing our roads. I know a lot of people are complaining about the barrels, but when you want your roads fixed, that's what you get.
It's so interesting how that works. We talk with MDOT every week. I know folks who work at MDOT, and you really, when you're not working, you stir up the ones who want the roads fixed, and when you are, you stir up the ones who hate the barrels.
Yeah.
It's a pretty tough spot.
Right.
But, that has to be a priority, I suppose. A couple of things we talked about on Friday when Dr. Bison was here and Commissioner Hodsma at the same time. They were submitting to our questions. We talked about a few things. One of them had to do with education. Battle Creek Public Schools, for example, is struggling. We've had other districts in Calhoun County struggling. And some say it's schools of choice. This is the problem. When you encourage district flight, sometimes it happens. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I wasn't around when they passed the opportunity for folks to go to schools of choice. I can see in some instances where it certainly may be a good thing for the parents are going to say, I really want my kid to go to this school or that school. It does present problems for school districts when they put a lot of capital improvement money into buildings and they bond, and then the kids aren't there. So it's I think it cuts both ways. It's good and it's bad. Obviously, there's a brand new study out showing that we need to, at least that study shows that we need to fund our educational endeavors through the state not revenue sharing, the school aid fund, by another $1,200 per pupil to bring us up to what they consider good educational opportunities. Then you've got there's another study out though now. It's kind of a bipartisan group. You got the county manager in Oakland County, Brooks Patterson, and the mayor Flynn, Karen Weaver, both on this committee, trying to look at that and said, is that really necessary? Are those the issues that really should be discussed? So. A little bit off the track, but I mean, there's lots and lots of issues surrounding education. It's certainly an important thing. Again, very happy that we were able last year to have Marshall and Albion merge districts. I think that's important for the kids in both districts. So.
Should we be open to that more readily?
Well, I think so. A lot of folks say there are just way too many school districts and too much administration, but it takes. You usually have a district that's got some issues with it, and Albion had some financial issues that, fortunately, the carrot that the state held out, $4.2 million, was really necessary for the folks in Marshall to decide, this is a good thing. We're not just taking on an insurmountable amount of debt, no matter how good it was for the kids to see those educational opportunities. It still has to make financial sense. So, but the state felt in its wisdom that it was worthwhile putting that carrot out there, and I think so far it's worked.
It's interesting because the downside maybe for some folks to merging districts is, and closing school buildings for that matter, is the community at some level is incredibly invested emotionally in their districts and their buildings.
Well, they are certainly, and for a lot of people, that's. I mean, I look at an area up in Ottawa County. It's called Georgetown Township, but everybody knows it as Jennison because it's a Jennison school district.
Right.
They don't even. I mean, most people. I mean, obviously, folks recognize the township, but I mean, it's known as Jennison. Even there's no entity called Jennison other than the school district. So people do attach to it. But I look in Kalamazoo County. You got Galesburg, Augusta, Climax, Scotts. Those things have happened over the years, and I think you're just going to see more of that. It's just getting more and more difficult to maintain smaller districts and merger of some type, be it the entire district or a high school or whatever, just seems to make financial sense. I think we're going to be driven to that aspect.
Representative Dave Maturen is here. We're back in a moment to continue for a few more minutes. WBCK, we're here with Representative Dave Maturen, who is among those asking for your vote in just a week or so, right? It's coming right up, and for some, not any too soon.
Yeah, you get towards the end, and it's over. So.
That's right. Well, let's talk about revenue sharing for a second. We sort of approached that subject a little bit, and this is one of the things we've talked with other candidates about: the steady decline in revenue sharing from Lansing. that has made municipalities really squeeze every single year. Kalamazoo thinks they've come up with an idea to try and solve that problem, but I don't know that we have a lineup of billionaires ready to take care of that with every municipality there is.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. The whole Kalamazoo thing will be very interesting to see how that plays out. And of course, the goal is to eventually get $500 million in a kitty and then live off the proceeds, the dividends of that, the interest on that, to make up the difference. Kalamazoo does have a very high millage rate compared to other places. It's a disincentive, especially to locate say industrial buildings and sometimes residential folks. I'll look at that too. So if they get their millage down to 12 mills, that's pretty equivalent to what Portage has, and we'll just see how that all works out. I think that there's money there for a short-term fix. You like to see when you've got that opportunity to do that short-term fix, you take a long-term look at what your liabilities are. And the county in the last couple of years when I was there, we did that with restructuring our defined benefit plan, the multiplier for the years. We took care of retiree health issues, things like that, to make it long-term sustainable. I'm hoping the city of Kalamazoo will look at this gift as the opportunity to do that. You're talking about revenue sharing. Constitutionally, that's been in good shape. The counties are basically back being made whole, but a lot of the municipal governments still are behind what they were collecting before. Of course, anytime you let somebody else control your purse strings, and when times get tough, they're going to want to keep a little bit more for them, a little bit less to you, simply to keep their operations going. So that's one of the downsides of revenue sharing, that ability for the state to kind of, when times get tough, they're going to keep a little bit more for themselves.
And so that's the picture you see. This is tough times. The money has to be diverted elsewhere, and that's the way it goes.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got to set some priorities, and from the state of Michigan, that was less of a priority than some of the other issues. Again, we're looking at an educational study that says we need another $1,200 per kid. We're talking another $1 billion. So I mean, every time you turn around, everybody's got a need. It's dire. So what do we address first? And it's kind of tough. Obviously, when you got to make decisions, you got to balance the budget, and we also got to pay down our debt, which I think is critical too. We're doing that this year. Paying down the MIPSR's debt, the school employees retirement system, another $1 billion to pay down that. It's something we ought to be doing for our kids and grandkids, not leaving them with this big debt and when they had nothing to do with it. So.
What do you think about this concept of the those with deep pockets in Kalamazoo County saying, we could put $70 million in a fund and help you build a nest egg off which you can balance your budgets? Are there any concerns that pop up for you with that?
I don't think so. I think, you look at the vote on the city commission, it was virtually unanimous. I think those folks just want to do right by the city. They see a once proud city, and they want to make sure it's sustainable. Obviously, the downtown is doing very well right now. You look around, and there aren't many vacancies, and it's good heavens, you can't walk more than about 20 yards before you can find a fresh beer. So,
well, that's true. Lots of building projects.
Right. So, I just it's good to see altruism. It's good to see that. I can't see the strings being attached as anything that's personally going to benefit these people. So.
Influence over government, maybe? Any concerns there?
Well, it depends on the compact and on the agreement. And from what I understand about it, they wouldn't have had virtually all of the city commissioners vote for it if they thought there was going to be some sort of influence from business or industry over the actions of the city. Quid pro quo, I don't think is there. I just think it's altruism. It's good to see. The same way with the Kalamazoo Promise. So they're very fortunate in Kalamazoo to have folks there that are willing to take some of the money they've made over the years and reinvest it in the community and try and keep it a good place to live and do business.
Do you see that? And of course, after the Kalamazoo Promise, one of the biggest questions was, can this be replicated elsewhere? We've had folks in Calhoun County say, and Joe Schwartz was one of them, who sat here and said, we need a Kalamazoo Promise here. I'll be the first one to donate to it. Can that be replicated, and should we expect that, do you think? And do lawmakers talk in Lansing about that idea and say, how can we pull those things together? Well,
I don't know if there's, it's basically the private sector, some individuals who have the wherewithal to do that,
mm-hmm.
and the interest to do that. I really don't think government, outside of, being able to fund education adequately, which is always an issue, there's not much more we can do, to go ahead and try and inspire that. If you're lucky enough to have a family or families that have the wherewithal to do that, then you're the beneficiary of their largesse. But
right.
if you're not, then you're in the pool with everybody else. So.
All right. Well, a week from tomorrow, the big day, and then Dave Maturen will know what's up for the next couple of years.
I'll know whether what I'm doing in 2017. So.
Right. That's right. All right, Dave. Best of luck. Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right. We'll stay in touch. Representative Dave Maturen.